right, so I'm going to call to order the Human Resource Committee, and our members are here. I take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and we have no public comments that we are aware of. So let's jump into the redesigning our staffing.
Our first topic for today's meeting is why I invited Rick to be a part of the conversation. And it's a response to some changes that we've made within our district, and then just some external factors that are causing us to rethink the way that we're staffing. As the board is aware, what we have over the last couple of years, what we've added to every building is every building has now has a technology coach or technology integrator that supports teachers, supports their use of technology, helps them bring new things in, use what they've got. And that was part of the role that the building tech assistants were filling at one time. The tech coach or tech integrator is a teacher. So they've got an educational background and a technology background. And so we found that to be a position that there is a strong market to hire from. And actually that connection of educator and technology specialists have really blended well together. They can talk the lingo to each other, which is again then kind of led to a little bit of the building technology assistants aren't as needed per se for some of that work that they used to do. The other part that's external is that IT, like many aspects of the job market right now, is highly competitive and really challenging to find qualified individuals to come into. And to speak frankly, the pay scale of a building technology assistant at the hourly rate that it is generally not attractive to pull people in. I guess our best case is that we had over last year, we had the middle school position posted for the whole school year. Had an initial conversation with one individual, and then they ghosted us. Basically, they stopped talking to us partway through the process, and that it's been challenging for us to fill. We've now had a second resignation in that rank, in those ranks, and so now we'll have two positions open, which kind of led us to a conversation that Rick and I had last year, which is ideas of how can we move the department forward, and how can we serve the needs that we have in a district. And what we're proposing is the idea of folding two building tech assistant roles into one district level computer technician. That is again, still a competitive field to hire individuals in, but it's a salaried role. And so it's more of a skilled role, higher skill continuum, and we have been able to hire for that and find quality people. And then it also, as I'll kind of turn it over to Rick here shortly, it also then can be a role that floats between buildings to serve the needs that they might have, whether they would be repairing, fixing, improving, installing. Those are all things that something like that role would be prepared to do. And so I guess and we can talk about the dollars part of it after maybe Rick adds a little bit of depth to whatever I forgot to mention.
Yeah, as Brian said, as long as I've been here a little over 8 years, and in that time, the building tech role as it's been a struggle to fill, and when we've had it, it's kind of been a revolving door. And then you have the additional costs of constantly retraining, getting people acclimated with the schools. And we've kind of gotten to the point, as Brian talked about, really struggled last year even to fill that one position. we ultimately had one person, and honestly, it was kind of like, well, I guess this is our best option, so we'll give it a try, and then he even stopped responding to us. So yeah, really, I guess my vision is looking at, because the district tech is a higher level position, I think it'll bring a higher level of skill and support for the schools. By adding a third district tech, we have two now, we could have them divide the schools up as far as coverage. And work with them. Yeah, we've had, as Brian said, we've had a much better luck with those positions and finding skilled people, qualified people. The other challenge, I think, with kind of the building tech role is it's somewhat, it's split between the school and IT really. So part of it is kind of almost a parallel where, you know, lunch duty, things like that. And people that want to get in technology really honestly aren't interested in that dual type role. Focus on technology. And that's why we've had struggle to fill the position. And also when we filled it, we had high turnover. I know at the high school where I'm based, I think there's probably maybe a year and a half is about the longest we've maintained that position. So I'm really hoping this plan would give us a lot more stability and then also bring a higher level of support.
So will we have any tech assistants if we do this?
Eventually we'll move to a place where we would not, but that building tech position would really kind of go away. And then I'm also looking at potentially adding a help desk position, which would be a full IT position, kind of tier 1, that would help triage tickets with the district techs, and then could also help with covering the schools.
So, but to answer your immediate question, Brian, right now we do still have three building level techs. What we're proposing is that, again, we would maintain them at this time. We would add, you know, the 2 open roles would be phased out. We'd maintain the 3 that we have, eventually moving into kind of what Rick is talking about. But, you know, before doing that, we would obviously be engaged in conversation with them. So we have we have an opening, and presumably one of them would be interested in moving to the high school role, which is a 12-month position as opposed to a school year only position. And then we would probably reevaluate where we're at with staffing those roles at the end of the school year.
Okay, so we have approved 5.
Yep.
We're looking for 2. We're just looking to replace these 2 with
Something that, yeah.
some.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned that there was the coach teacher. Was that just a function of the building tech? Or is that a different position altogether? The one that was
So building techs did do some support, so they would, you know, they would help, if able to help, they would help a teacher operate, you know, their technology. The coach, I call them a couple, the technology coach or technology integrator role is a member of the teaching group. And they are specifically about helping teachers integrate technology, use their technology.
so that's different than the building tech.
Yes.
Okay.
When
Yes.
did we bring those people?
We added the elementary roles
Last year.
After
at the
COVID?
start of last year.
Yeah.
How many do we have of those?
1 at each school now. Yeah, previously we had high school, middle school, and intermediate, and we did not have any at elementary up until last year.
So we have 6 of those.
Do we foresee any additional changes with the new schools? I mean, are we using the same? I know it's 5,
Yeah.
2, 3 years down the road, technology will change.
Right.
But with the added space, is there going to be a need for additional people at that point as well?
So I don't really see it right now because it'll still be the same number of schools that we're covering. Now, when we talk about in the future, further out, if we end up adding like another elementary school or something like
That
that.
the technology is not going to change.
Right.
It will change, but
Yeah.
we're not replacing stuff that we can't use right now with Heritage. That when we build a new Heritage, that we're gonna have a lot more need
Right.
at this point.
So kind of what just shared with you here is how this would financially work. And so if we look down to that last section, if we have two tech assistants versus one district computer tech, we're actually spending less in wages. We're spending, so we would be spending, if we do this, we would spend more in wages. Approximately, $4,500 more in wages to put them, in a salaried role. But in terms of benefits, with the focus on health insurance being the most expensive one, instead of offering for two, we'd be offering for one. So there's, there's a likely savings in terms of net cost to the district, but there is an initial higher cost of wages.
This is a 12-month.
This is a 12-month role.
I can
Motion to
support
approve.
this. Did you?
Motion to approve this?
Yeah, second.
Favor?
Aye.
So we're sending this to the board, or can we do it ourselves?
This would be it would be a new position, so we should take it to the board.
Great.
Our next is just a bit of an update, reminder. I think these are topics that you will have certainly heard coming in, but this is the final year of our 5-year agreement with Dean. And so we will need to come to agreement on what we use for our health insurance coverage starting July 1 of 2023. We are in discussions with Dean Insurance. They have provided us some initial estimates, if you would, depending on actions that we would determine and take. And so the task kind of the year for the insurance committee, and then obviously coming to this group and then to the full board, would be to review our current offerings in terms of what our benefit plan is. It would be to then make any changes that we felt necessary to keep, costs contained to a level that we find acceptable. And then we're also, looking at adding a potential another option that's a lower cost option that could be more appealing to staff that are interested in perhaps spending less in their benefits, but having more of their money stay in wages, if you would. And so the insurance committee is going to be convening shortly to kind of start to review options that, again, from Dean, what are ways that we can tweak our current offerings to keep costs neutral or close to what we spend now. And then what could be some potential other options. Additionally, what we're, one other aspect of that is we've already engaged with SSM and Dean to talk about the health assessment process. And we've kind of gone through some adjustments of that over the years, where there was health, a biometric screening, and then there was health coaching. And now, as we've been doing that, or us as an organization, but they, them as providers, we're finding there are other options that are more impactful to the health of employees, and that is getting involved with a care practitioner, having a discussion based on that employee's health history. And we are uniquely positioned with the clinic to be able to offer something like that. Because right now it is, as probably many of you know, very challenging to get in to see your actual primary care physician for anything unless you're actually in need, like you're ill or you have a health issue. Well, we have staffing potentially able to do that. And so we're engaged in conversations with them about how could we use our wellness clinic to have these impactful conversations with employees about their health, and somehow nudge them to want to do that with a benefit to them in terms of what their differential could be in terms of healthcare costs. And so we've started those conversations. They've been, I think they've been positive so far in that we think that there could be something that, again, first we'll go through the insurance committee to kind of talk about what that could look like, and then come back to this committee to tie to it. And then ultimately, and then I'll flip it to you guys for questions. How could we leverage our health, our organizational health, our employees' health, to make ourselves a more appealing insurance client? Obviously, there's a benefit to the employee, right? We want them to be well, but there's also a benefit to us as an employer if we show that we have a workforce committed to wellness and is in a good spot, because then we're more insurable, right? We're less of a risk. And so it's a win, it's a win for our employees, and it's a win for us as a school district. Is questions that folks might have, or Steve, if you have, Steve's been involved in these conversations too, things that you would add?
Just a couple of things I would add to what Brian said. The first is just to reiterate one of the comments that Brian made that I think is really, really critical from the board member perspective. So for the last 5 years, we have been able to focus our compensation increases entirely on salary. So a question that we'll need to answer for the insurance committee as we work our way through this is, do the board members feel that no additional investment in health insurance premiums should be made for next July 1st? Meaning, if we're spending $6 million right now, that should be our goal, would be to spend $6 million. Because plan design changes can get us to that same dollar amount. Offering different plans can get us there. So that's just something as board members to be thinking about, is as we begin the planning process for 23-24, do we set aside X amount of funds for an additional investment in health insurance of some type, let's say 3%, let's say 5%, so the insurance committee has something to work with? Or is the direction to the insurance committee going to be, you have a 0% increase to work with, plan accordingly, because our focus is going to be salary again? We certainly don't need an answer on that today, but ultimately, as the budget committee and the HR committee work together as we plan for next July 1st, that's an important piece. Second one is we've had conversations about actually creating an incentive in our handbook for staff to be proactive with their health. That would potentially be a third tier of premium contribution. So that could be a handbook change. And so as board members, you would want to start thinking a little bit about that. Because right now we have a rate if you don't participate in any of our health assessments. We have a standard rate if you do participate. What we're looking at talking about is maybe an incentive for staff to earn a better premium contribution in exchange for being, I'll call it, fully up to date with all appropriate medical procedures for your age and gender. So what would that mean? I'm a 46-year-old male. Colonoscopy age has been brought down to 45. You don't have to go get a colonoscopy, but if you do, we would change your premium from the percent that it currently is, and the district would kick in maybe another 2 or 3%. And so it takes health assessments to a more customized personal level, but you have to earn it. You have to earn it by doing what is medically appropriate for your age and gender. That would be a new approach to health assessments. It really was what we were envisioning a long time ago. We certainly weren't envisioning a 46-year-old going in for their health assessment, the medical professional saying, you should be getting a colonoscopy, and the person saying, I'm not gonna really go do that. That doesn't help the person, it doesn't help our plan if something unfortunately happens to that person. So we're looking at creating another tier which incentivizes people to take their health assessment maybe to the next level. And we've started that dialogue with Dean with identifying what are those things that a person would need to potentially do. So cancer screenings, depending on their age, et cetera. And that could be something we would bring back to this committee and say this could be a potential handbook change for next July 1st. So just want you to be thinking about that as a possibility, because that would be different. Thank you, Brian.
Questions?
We've had information that the clinic is being well used or underused in the past, have we?
Mhm.
So is it currently appreciated and used by the teachers?
Well, yeah, and so, and I can share with you, the clinic gives us feedback, shares the feedback that they get from our employees. Consistently, the satisfaction is extremely high with those that are using it. We're in the, high 80s or 90% are highly satisfied with the service that they're providing, which is above average for SSM as a whole. And in terms of usage, you all were involved in those conversations. We're looking at, in the high 30s to low 40s in terms of appointment hours for usage, which then led this group to approve the opening of the clinic to all employees, whether they're on our health coverage or not. That actually is going to be announced to all employees tomorrow. We're going to be pushing out a communication to them to say, great news. Every employee can start to use this now at this time, in addition to those covered by our health insurance, which would be family members, et cetera. But this would kind of the idea that we're talking about would be a further use of our clinic, and appointments that would involve having conversation with the nurse practitioner, reviewing an individual's health history with them, and saying, okay, great, this looks great. You're, right where you are. Hey, did you know that this is something you should be doing right now?
They have enough time to do that, to
Yeah,
step that up and do it.
We do believe so. I mean, because we're gonna, again, the vision that we would have is that we would be working that through the process and announcing it in such a time so that it could be spread over instead of what we do now, which is health assessments starting at the end of January through sometime in May. We would be opening this up for a longer window and potentially having the appointments be for the majority of the school year. But again, process follow would be insurance committee, HR committee, and then full board, and then so there's we're probably looking at a month plus, maybe 2 months before we're out there.
So what's the late, at what point do you expect the insurance committee and the full board to have
Like
this
the-
new plan, say this is the way we want to go, and that's our decision?
Well, as we kind of backwards mapped it, we want to have something in front of the board for action in the new year. So we'd be talking January.
Okay.
For review. I mean, there's going to be, this group is going to be, our HR committee would be getting some updates and comments before that time, obviously. But, just for us to get the agreement signed, the board on board, communication to employees, et cetera. That's a start of the new year type of.
So this is just really information now
Yep.
for us.
Yep, just to
Mhm.
things to think about and things that are definitely coming with this group. The next item is just an update of where we're at for hiring this year, and then an action or potential discussion of an action item to assist. And so as of this morning, I say it that way purposely, we have 3 regular custodial positions open, 3 full-time roles that are available. They're all right now at the high school. Arboretum has all positions filled. Heritage Elementary needs about 20 hours of paraeducator, regular education paraeducator time. We have actually happening right now an interview with another to follow. So that could, hopefully be a little bit closer to full. And I say 20 hours because we are offering full-time roles, part-time roles, and job share roles to fill that time. So, we'll fill it in a variety of ways. And so hopefully we'll be closer in about 35 minutes to where we're at there. Prairie Elementary needs 1 English language learner, paraeducator. That was a resignation that just happened at the end of last week. Intermediate school needs 2 special education paraeducators. These are all full-time roles. Middle school needs 1 special education paraeducator. In the high school needs 1 regular education para that is a full-time role supporting study hall or a learning resource study hall. 1, we will need in a week, 1 library assistant paraeducator or library assistant classified staff member, and then 4 special education paraeducators between the high school and transition program. And so we as I said, things change in here. We were creeping closer. We had a couple of 2 resignations at the end of last week for this for the start of school year. It's just a very dynamic labor market right now for this, and so we continue to work at it. Of these roles, I believe we'll have solid internal interest for the EL English language paraeducator. We have a number of native speakers already in our employment in different roles that I have expressed interest in this in the past. So I would expect that they will probably do so again, which means that we'll have another opening somewhere else. But to be able to find an individual that's got language skills and a desire to work with kids is a fortunate spot to be in. The special education paraeducators, those obviously come with a full benefit package. We've been able to fill a number of the roles in elementary. It's harder as the students get older to find individuals that are looking for that work. We're still attempting to do so. And then the 2 high school classified roles. 1 is surprisingly been open for almost the whole summer. The one supporting the study hall without any applicants. The library role was a resignation again that just happened last week. Someone's going to a different school district. I'm not sure where we'll be in applicants on that one. I would think it would be appealing. Library tends to draw folks, but we'll see. So that's kind of, I guess, any questions about where we stand at this point. And then the other update I would offer is in the certified ranks. We have a teacher, a music teacher that's going to need to start the school year on a long-term medical leave. And that we've not been able to have any applicants for that in about a week. It's been posted about a week. We've already started to we're calling individuals that are connected to anyone that in the district or that we know of, and not with success at this time. So that's concerning. We're going to be meeting about potential and way to cover it internally. And then see where that leads us.
How long?
I believe it's still a little bit to be determined, but I believe it's going to be probably a lengthy one of at least 12 weeks. So in terms of class, in general, in terms of the, and again, this afternoon, we're actually interviewing for the intermediate school assistant principal role. Those are our two, those two certified roles are the two that we have left. I believe we'll be in a position where we should be able to transition someone into the assistant principal role within a few weeks. In the meantime, Lisa Jondal is going to be kind of doing both jobs, with the first primary focus being the building, getting the school year off to a good start, supporting them, having to pause a little bit of her work as director of student services. And then as we are better able to manage it, have her start to make that transition. The band teacher, like I said, will probably need to be some really creative internal work that will not be something sustainable long-term, but at least will get us through until we have some clarity.
I'm assuming you reached out to Sam.
We have had conversations with lots of individuals that are retired. And the majority of those folks have said that they are either retired or they're working somewhere else, and and so we're continuing to reach out. I sent a couple additional names.
And it's instrumental.
It is band, yes, yep, high school band. So it's, I mean, the benefit is that there's two, so it's a position that has a real strong support network. It's just that there just aren't a lot of band teachers out in the market. Actually, there's none right now.
Were you successful with English?
We did, yes. Actually, I believe that person is in the district right now. I think that was the plan, so. Yeah, and so it's again a retiree, bringing someone, but within the Wisconsin retirement system, you can hire a retiree for full time as long as they don't exceed 364 days. And so this person will join us on a one-year contract, and we'll post a little bit more of a conventional opportunity, early in the hiring season next year. So the kind of related to the hourly staff wages, what I'm proposing or asking the board to consider is like we've done with other employee groups, actually on our schedule of steps, eliminating the first step, the initial hire step, and then sliding everyone down one in the again, this is in the para-educator classified staff roles. This would not include crossing guards and copy clerks, because we actually took special action on those last year, and that has put us in a pretty good spot. This would be for our library assistants. It would be for special ed para educators, regular ed para educators, and so it's level 2, level 3, level 4. So the estimate of the wages that we would pay for that this year are $2.8 million. If we increase that, if we get rid of that one step, that's a 2.75% increase. So that cost by doing so would be about $79,000 on estimated. And so again, that means our hiring schedule would increase. We'd increase our hiring range, and then every other employee would move down so that we didn't get that somebody new coming in jumps somebody else.
What would their starting wage be?
Shoot. I didn't bring that. Let me see if I've got.
Rebecca.
Could you grab the handbook, please? It would be in the hourly staff. It's the appendix at the back.
While Rebecca's grabbing that, one of the things I talked to Brian about, and obviously yesterday Joan was able to sit through the budget committee meeting. You'll see at the September board meeting that we had a very strong financial balance at the end of the last fiscal year, so
That's
all
the
board
first
members will see
Yeah,
that
if you scroll,
reports in a couple of weeks at the regular September meeting.
It's probably the last
We
three
were
pages.
able to save over $1.2 million into our fund balance at the conclusion of the last fiscal year. So we enter the 22-23 fiscal year in a very strong position. When Brian and I were talking through this, I said, I think it is worth us putting this in front of you for consideration, because we did take steps last spring to, in effect, save funds for the 22-23 school year. At the time, we believed we were doing that because we weren't aware of the ESSER 3 funding that became available to our district. We were doing that to make an attempt to balance the 22-23 budget. We've been able to do that successfully, even with the prior pay increases that we approved, because of our 2-year plan to use the ESSER 3 funds. So we are in a financial position that if the board felt an additional investment in the group that were having the hardest time filling positions, we would be able to do so. It's just you, Brian, and Judy, well, haven't seen it yet because it's going to be presented in the September board meeting, but Joan has had a chance to see it yesterday. I don't know, Joan, if you had anything you wanted to share about that.
No, my concern would be, do we have the money? And yes, I think we do. And when I look at those beginning wages, will it be enough?
Well, if you go back to the agenda, what I put out there was that in these, again, in the classified staff, our starting rate, this is compared only to the other school districts in Dane County that we compare ourselves to, it's the average in that group is where our starting rate is 18% below
Yeah,
the other
that's why
school
I'm
district.
wondering.
And what I put out there is a proposal increase of 2.75%. So that's not gonna take us, it's gonna chip at the difference. It's not going to knock it out. What I would say is that part of, what I've communicated with Steve and Randy is that I would hope that, we can start to have a deeper conversation about making some real meaningful changes. It, again, tied to the operational referendum passing. But is it going to make a difference? I don't know.
Mhm.
It's certainly going, it does make it look better. I mean,
Yeah.
is it enough? I can't say that. I mean, I would say the most we could, the most you feel comfortable doing would be helpful. I mean, those wages are, we've all, you've seen what's in the paper, what's on the radio, what we drive through town, what starting rates are. I mean, those are still, if you go down to, again, just make sure we're all talking about the same thing. We're really saying, this line goes away and this becomes the minimum.
Right.
And so those are numbers that are those are numbers that are still available on a variety of jobs around the county.
I think Brian made a good point about the operational referendum, because one of the 3 main components of the operational referendum was to attract and retain staff and to set aside funds for salary increases. If that question does pass, it's going to be very important for the HR committee to weigh in on what are those steps and when should we take them? Because as an example, we are seeking $1 million in that operational referendum question for 22-23. So if you felt that a bolder move was more appropriate now, you could do so And of course, we would be allocating some of those operational referendum funds if it passes. If it doesn't pass, we have $100,000 contingency budget that has nothing assigned to it right now. And on top of it, when Brian mentions unfilled positions, they're all budgeted for. It just means they're not being spent. So Brian could probably run a spreadsheet for you to show you how much we're saving per day or not spending per day from all of the openings that it referenced. I'm not even really sure that this would cost us by the time we get to the end of the year. But if you felt like a double movement would be a better attempt to try to fill these positions, I think we could do that. Or if you felt that this was a step in the right direction and you wanted to see the results of the operational referendum and consider something for January 1st or some other point in time, there's no reason why we can't reevaluate this.
If we did a double step, what would happen to the other employee groups, the custodians? I don't want to get everybody else out of whack, but I know we really looked at custodians last year.
We did,
Would
and
they
so,
be completely out of whack if we
So-
double step this group?
again, what I guess to just, we did this with custodians last year. We actually did a double jump with
I know we
custodians
did,
last
yeah.
year. And so what I would say is that was really a reaction to external factors more than internal factors. And so if we were to do this with the remaining hourly employee groups, there is one that we're not talking about, which is also a significant need, which is our administrative assistants. However, we're filled there.
But fair is fair.
But I think that is a group that, again, has significant needs to be caught up to market. This would bring two groups back to historical balance. I guess would be the best way to answer your question. Because this, again, custodians took 2 jumps last year. This classified group would take 2 steps this year. That would really leave us with an opportunity to dedicate more attention. All 3 groups are still going to need some attention within the operational referendum fund, but we could really dedicate attention to our administrative assistant group. And that could be, maybe as Steve mentioned, is that another mid-year change, a post-referendum change? I mean, there's a variety of ways for us to do that. But we should not lose sight of all 3 of our hourly groups. We are not at average in any of them. We're,
I would definitely propose doing that double jump. These positions, especially the special ed paras, they're critical to start. Those are kids, some of those are like
they're need-based, right?
They
I mean,
are very
we don't
need-based.
have, we have them because particular
Right.
students have them in their IEPs.
You know, and in this list, I think, 7 are special ed paras.
Yeah.
Those are really important positions and we're 2 days from start.
Yeah.
I think we need to be aggressive in what we do to attract people.
I agree with you. We could do a double.
If you feel we can afford somehow, some way a double, I think we put out there, and again, it isn't a huge, I mean, you're not even $1 from the minimum to go up to that 2-year. You'll probably still struggle, but at least I think you'll maybe be a little easier to attract somebody.
Well, I mean, I think that what research would tell you is that when you get to what people feel is a fair and equitable wage, they'll start to look at the other components of what your job or organization offers. And we do have a lot of really positive things to offer once you're in the system.
Well, that would be my support. I would like to move to a double jump.
I agree.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
I
Aye.
and hustle out there and get those people
All right.
hired.
Well, so with that, we'll take that to the board for the full board vote. And then we would adjust accordingly.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Our last agenda item is related to COVID-related leave. The language that we had regarding COVID-related leaves was an addendum to the handbook last year. And so that expired when the handbook expired. What I shared with you kind of historically, kind of we had in 2021, federal, there were federally mandated leaves through the first half of the school year. As a school district, we chose to extend them for the full year so that it was consistent semester 1 to semester 2. That went away at the end of the 2021 school year. So last year, what the board had said is that if an individual has used up all of their own leave time, no one can go, or no one should go without paid time due to a COVID-related situation. And so that was what we offered last year. And then that expired. And kind of the question I posed to Joan is that still where the board, is the board, where does the board comfort level with what we're doing with COVID-related leaves? And I can share with you a little bit of the landscape of Dane County. Currently, as we look at our kind of the 8 suburban schools that we often compare ourselves to, Middleton, Monona Grove, Stoughton, and Verona are offering some type of a COVID-related leave. DeForest, McFarland, Oregon, and Sun Prairie are not. And so currently, as it stands, we are also not, because we don't have, again, we issue, every employee group gets one sick day per month worked. So minimal school year employees are getting 10. Your 12-month employees are getting 12. And then you've got, depending on the employee group, there's various personal days paid off, vacation days paid off. Some employee groups get comp days. So, but minimally, if we're talking only sick days, everyone has, every school year employee plus has got at least 10 days.
And they carry over.
They
sick
carry,
days.
all of our sick days carry over.
So what you're saying though is that I have 10 every year. And if I have a minor illness, use a couple, then I get COVID, I'm never going to have to go more than 10 days into my school year.
I'm not, so I mean, I guess I'm not sure I'm understanding, but maybe I can rephrase. So let's use a teacher example. If I'm a teacher, in 2021, I was given 10 sick days. If I used one, 9 of them have rolled over to this year, and we've given them another 10.
Right.
So now they're at 19 in their available bank to use. As we would currently stand, what we would say to an employee is, if you need time off for COVID, you've been diagnosed with COVID, and you're going to need to miss work while you're in days 1 through 5. You are going to use your personal sick day bank to cover that. If just like, so in that regards, we are treating COVID as if we would treat the regular illnesses that individuals have gotten for whatever, whether it's cold, it's strep throat, it's chicken pox, it's treated the same way, in that, you need to be out for the period of time that you need to be out. You use your paid time off for that to maintain your pay, and when you're back, you're back.
Okay, but
So, Brian, with your example, can that person, would that person need to use all 19 in their bank? If we put in a COVID leave back into the handbook, do they use all 19 or do they just use the 10 allocated for that year?
If, I guess,
You said they
you know,
had
and so what, I think, so if we're talking about what it was last year.
Yeah.
Before we would allocate anyone anything additionally, they had to have used all of their available time off.
the whole bank.
Yeah, so they would have had to go through everything that they had available to them before we started to offer them anything additional.
I thought they only had to use their year.
No, it was, yeah, yeah. And so.
so that's eating into retirement.
We, depends on the employee group, for three out of our 5 employee groups, yes, it is. For 2, there
So the
is,
risk is greater for the long-term employees.
Because they have a bigger bank that they're saving for retirement.
well, I guess, in the regards of who's most likely to run out of paid time off, it's your newer employees.
So
Because,
that's the goal, not to have people run out of their,
well, I think that last year's goal, or at least as I understood the discussion from last year's board, the goal was to make sure that no one went without pay due to illness. Was really the goal for last year. And this goes back to his historical practice. The board, at some point, the board and employee groups had, established that if someone has sick days, and they've not used them, we're going to give them some value back when they leave our organization as a retiree. I have no idea when that went into place. I know that it's been there a long time. That's obviously not the same in every school district or even every organization. Many school districts don't carry days over, right? You get what you get per year. So
I think your point is that nobody should not have coverage for COVID. So we're just protecting that much. We're not protecting their sick bank at all. We're just protecting any employee that gets COVID or gets sick should not be left in the lurch because of COVID.
I think the question that is going to be posed is, do you want to have some level of COVID experience in the handbook for this year? Because right now it's all expired.
Yeah.
So right now what everybody has is what they receive on an annual basis plus what's in their bank.
But you still expect an employee, so I just had COVID. I wasn't really sick, but I felt I should stay home 4 or 5 days. Would you expect your employees to do that?
Yeah, yes, they should.
So that's difficult. There they are sitting, using up 5 sick days. And they
But wouldn't they do that with the flu?
But they're not sick.
If they have the flu,
If they have the flu, they're sick, but she's
if they have
sitting,
COVID, they're sick.
Well,
not
I
physically.
wasn't sick. I tested positive. I wasn't sick and I had to stay home 5 days. So,
If I have a cold, I come to school.
You're not
anyway.
symptomatic, you still have the virus, so.
But we work, people come to work even though they've got symptoms from just flu, cold. We're not mandated to stay home for that. That's our choice.
Well, I guess the one thing I'd say is they are direct, like if they have a fever, they are direct to tell, again, regardless of what causes the fever, you should
Yeah.
not be at work until 24 hours after it goes away. And so there are situations that, they are said, hey, you stay awake, right? Don't come back here when you're, but you are correct in that prior to COVID, I think it was more common that individuals came to work
With symptoms.
With symptoms of some kind. We are, as an organization, we are not tracking COVID illnesses anymore. I mean, what employees have been directed to do is report your absence through the typical channels. If you need assistance in knowing when you can come back, we'll help you with that. But otherwise, when your illness starts, if it's COVID, you come back on day 6. Just like if you have strep throat, you go to the doctor, they tell you come back 24 hours after your fever has gone away, or 24 hours after you've been on your antibiotics. And so it's.
Is this something that we would have to, if we made a decision now, we would have to stick through? If there was a large outbreak again?
Again, a handbook is 100% under the control of the employer. So as a school board, you can change a handbook and we provide notice to employees and it takes effect.
So, I mean, if we started without this and we had November, another strain go through, and we could put this back into play.
At any time.
Brian, how frequently last year did you have to use this language? Were there individuals who?
We did. I would say that we had approximately 10 individuals across employee groups that went into this situation. I'd say they fell almost exclusively into 2 reasons for that. They fell into that because they had used their personal bank up for a different, typically a family medical leave. And so they used up all their time for that, or they used up between, they're a new employee and they used it up for themselves and a child.
From your office, would this help dealing with some of those situations? I mean, if you're talking about 10 situations, and is that a help to your office to be able to help these individuals?
It's from our perspective, it's not necessarily a help. It's just a different change. In any, I guess the default is, right, our default system is we pay people for work.
Yeah.
Right, and if somebody is unable to be at work and now we have to adjust, that requires us to do something to their pay. So if somebody has to go unpaid, we're doing something, we're changing the norm. If we have a special leave provision, that now instead of changing, now we're changing time off. So we're touching that employee's stuff for one of the 2 reasons.
Do we have a dollar amount on what it cost us last year to pay somebody out on sick leave?
No, I mean, I don't have something like that. I mean, that would require some digging for sure.
Yeah.
Do we have a sense that COVID is still out there to the point of impacting teachers?
So,
Katie had a question on that.
So my understanding is that the way that our district is approaching COVID this year, just in general for students and with our protocol and everything, is that we're handling it just like any other communicable disease. We're asking kids to stay home when they're sick, not come to school when they're sick, to follow COVID protocol. We're not tracking it, those types of things. So and I don't know, but what I would recommend, or I think it's important to consider, that we maintain that consistency across everybody. Expecting our students to stay home when they're sick, and we're managing COVID like we're any, like strep throat or, you know, any other flu or anything like that, then I would imagine that would make more sense to go back to our protocol that we utilized before. We're not doing anything special or tracking anything with our students, then we should maintain that consistency with our employees. That's just, I don't know what your recommendation is, Brian, or what our, you know, for,
Well, there's also the thing where a lot of people are just home testing and saying I'm positive. Where do we, you know, would you recommend, then you would have to go to get something more official to be able to say you do have COVID?
Well, I guess I'll go answer one, answer two. What I would say is for purposes of the way that we're currently planning on treating it for students and staff, home tests are perfectly acceptable. You know, that for a way of finding out that someone's COVID, and then they are expected to take care of it within their own way, right? Stay home as long as you need to stay home. Come back when you're out of the days, out of 5 days, and well. If there were any change from that, absolutely, there's going to need to be official documentation provided. Like, I mean, that is the part that is absolutely consistent for other schools. Like, this is not a verbal or a home test situation. This is a certified test from a medical facility, name attached, etc. Before, and I would say that's absolutely the direction we would go if we move that way. But if we stay with what we currently have planned, which was coming into the year, what administratively we had planned on doing, which was, you know, manage it at your home. If you're ill, stay away from work. Home test is perfectly acceptable. And so, and again, yeah, I guess that's probably it.
Yeah, I guess I'm in favor of eliminating this as it is, but we have the option of putting it back in if
Yeah.
something hits again where
You know,
it's,
if we,
you know, where we are seeing longer stays, because we've also, CDC has also decreased the amount of time out.
Right.
Used to be almost 10 days,
Right.
so 2 weeks worth of work. Now it's, you know, around 5, you know, and then,
and hopefully part of that's a weekend.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Get it on a Thursday.
So there's really no action needed
So
because
we don't,
we needed action to put it in. So
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's not.
There is, yep, that's correct.
So we're mute.
But just,
And so that would kind of be it. I would say for just heads up, we'll probably be meeting, kind of get back onto almost a monthly schedule. You know, now that we've got some of those action items coming up. The next meeting that we would have together with you would likely be a formal proposal for the health assessment change. And that, depending on when we've got our insurance committee, when I can get that group together early here in September, could be late September, early October, so that discussion could go to the full board in August, or excuse me, in October.
So I will be gone for 2 weeks, 23rd through the 7th of September to end of October, so we could do it on the 21st or that week, 19, 20, or 21st, or after. That's the week
And
of the 10th.
I'm gone the week before.
Okay, so it sounds, and I don't know that we need to set a formal meeting, but just for purposes of keeping it in mind, what I'm hearing probably then is, well, maybe Steve, you and I can talk a little bit to think about. Because we could still bring it to the November board meeting is on the 7th. It's, excuse me, no, I'm
Are
sorry.
you
it's on
on the
14th.
20th, Joan?
Of
September.
I hesitate to set something that early in September. I just don't know how I would get my insurance committee together in that length of time to get their contributions.
So we're on the insurance committee.
Oh, so-
And Brian, you're gone through the 7th.
Yeah.
Of October.
Well,
Just
again,
take a high-
puzzle, an opportunity to work on a puzzle.
Christmas
So,
is coming, so.
yeah, so we will,
You're back on the break.
We're just giving you guys a break.
Brian just gave you
See,
a break.
Brian gave us a
Right.
break, now we're giving you a break.
all right, well, we'll plan a little bit and we'll recircle.
Would anyone like to move?
Oh, yes. Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are done.